respected persons on the dais, participants of the National Trainers Summit 2017, friends, good afternoon. Let me at the outset congratulate T for Trainer, ISTD, Jan Shiksha Sansthan, Cochin University, and all those who have put together this successful National Trainers Summit, which I understand has been very well taken by the participants. And from my point of view, I'm not a trainer, I'm just an administrator. I've been CEO of companies for over 24 years, a CEO of public enterprises, various positions in the government. So my outlook on training is basically from practical experience, from my experience in communication and so on. So some of you who are expert trainers may find this rather basic, and I'd request you to put up with it. And I was also a little bit misinformed about the composition of the audience. I didn't expect senior people who trainers to be present here. I thought it would be mostly MBA students and the student community, because it's taking place in the university and so on. So kindly bear with me. Let's place this whole summit in the right perspective. The training sector is a transformational one in these times, particularly because India is in the process of training and skilling its massive workforce. Effectiveness and relevance of training and development is crucial for both organizations and the government, as it is the critical catalyst for sustainable economic and societal transformation. The relevance is very, very important because many of the courses which are done by even elite institutions, you find that they are not really effective in contributing towards success on the job. You know, I'm reminded of a survey done by Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, where when I was studying. They did a study on the current position of the former students, the alumni, and the grades they had got during the course. And you know what happened? There was a negative correlation. That means people who have done pretty badly in the course for the IIM, they did extremely well, and vice versa. So this should help you think about the dynamic role of training and how it should be very relevant to the needs of not just today, but the needs of tomorrow and for several years to come. We take the instance of the school students, you know, they are going to be around for the next 75 or 80 years, you know, with the longevity of life increasing at the rate it is. So are we preparing them for that kind of a life, or are we looking back another 30 or 40 years when we were children and trying to train the same way is what we have to look at. Because our future, our nation's future will develop and development would depend solely on the effectiveness of how we can use new knowledge and skills, and this is possible only through training. And the investment in this training is also very, very important. Why do we invest in training? You have to improve the skill of the workforce and improve organizational performance, improve things like health, safety in organizations, and so on. And training is an investment for competitiveness also, global competitiveness, and future organizational as well as national growth. The government's and management's commitment to training improves morale and boosts productivity because the costs are very reasonable and the benefits are high for both employer and for the employee. I know some training is expensive. In those cases, to mitigate the cost, the risk of attrition of employees after training, you could have a policy to recover costs, you know, as many organizations do, a bond and so on. Assessing training requirements is a very, very important thing to find out what exactly is the intervention you require. We must systematically assess training needs, as people are often unclear about the purpose, types, and ultimate goals of training. Do skills audit and job analysis survey to discover what skills are required, to understand current skills and knowledge vis-a-vis the required ones. Interact with employees because they know the areas they need to improve in. And their involvement in planning, training, and feedback are therefore very, very important. If morale and motivation are low, training can even bring attitudinal change, as many of the speakers in the last 2 days have been able to demonstrate through various cases and so on. And one has to study the workplace problems. What are the actual problems? Where are you not delivering or not delivering efficiently? And study those cases and even do psychometric assessments, in my opinion. After audit, study, and assessment, a training plan has to be made with the employer and discussing with the HR team, and to finalize the best training, best types of training interventions, the time frame, the resources, the budget, and so on. And choose the appropriate types of training. It can be instructor-led training, it can be hands-on training, especially in the case of skills development, interactive training, group discussions and group activities, computer-based training, which is getting more and more common now, e-learning or online training, all to fulfill the particular objective. You can have a mix of various types of training I mentioned. And the trainer has to introduce the program with the purpose and benefits to the trainees. Because the individual and group productivity is going to rise, but unless the trainees know about it, they will not be motivated. Efficiency will increase. And you have to encourage them in the training to use the new knowledge, skills at work, and more importantly, in life itself. The session can be made interesting by stories and so on. I find various interventions have been made to show how interesting the training program can be. What exactly is training? It is just teaching new knowledge, skills, attitudes, very important, methods and procedures. You know, in the case of new systems being introduced on the shop floor, for example. So you have a whole gamut of things you want to change during training, you know, and the effectiveness has to be measured. And very few people are born trainers. Trainers require training, just like anybody else. And training effectiveness is most dependent on the trainer himself and the planning which has gone before the training. A successful trainer motivates, develops even the weakest, and has a relationship of trust with his trainees. An inefficient trainer causes trainees inattention, boredom, indiscipline, and absenteeism. I hope that I'm not responsible for the huge absenteeism which is happening right now. Probably it's because of the end of the course, you know. I don't take it personally. Anyway, I'm a little worried by that. And you have to develop short, engaging sessions to avoid this kind of too much of information overload or any of this lack of attention from happening. For that, most important thing is to communicate effectively in oral terms, in written terms, as well as in body language. You know, it's very important to sound very enthusiastic and very sincere to the person you are training. If you just talk in a monotone, he's not going to be interested. He thinks that you are just doing your job to be paid by the hour or whatever. So only then the trainee will receive and interpret your message correctly. Transmission of information can be ineffective if the voice is too weak or not directed at the receiver without looking at you. Suppose I just look somewhere and talk, there's nobody going to pay any attention to me. So monotonous intonation is also one of the problems. I've seen very good people who are bad communications because they have a monotonous intonation, or you show no enthusiasm in what you are saying, you know. External interference has to be avoided, of course, disturbances and so on. Often the trainees shut off because the message is over his head. So you've got to find out what is the level of knowledge of the person you are training, and or he can be focused on some alternate information, just like you know, somebody looks at the mobile phone. I think I can see one or two people at least looking at their mobile phones. So you know, that is clearly avoiding getting up and going, but at the same time being engrossed in something. This is a huge disturbance which comes in. Or if you're fatigued, you know, that's quite possible. At the end of the day, like now, you're fatigued. You're distracted. You're wondering whether you'll catch your bus or whether you'll be late getting home, whatever. And you know, some people can be saturated with too much information and your mind shuts off everything, you know. Or you're incapable of understanding, you know, what the trainer is trying to tell you is completely over your head. There's no point trying to listen. So he just goes into his own shell. As far as the trainer is concerned, you have to talk very pleasantly, slowly, clearly, and sufficiently loudly with enthusiasm and sincerity, showing proficiency in the subject using simple language. You must pause. Very, very important. Go from simple to complex, particular to concrete, particular to general, concrete to abstract, point by point logically. You can use lecture outlines like I am using, just a few points here and there, or you can use extensive notes from which you can actually read out. You have to understand the trainee's level, very, very important, and then try to find out what is difficult for him, what kind of demonstrations or illustrations will catch his attention and retain the concept you're trying to convey. What are the new terms? You have to explain it before you start talking, using those terms, and so on. And this will be helped by giving handouts, by using visual aids, using stories, illustrations, case studies of scenarios which are familiar to the trainees. In face-to-face kind of a training, questioning the trainee is very, very important. But it has to be very clear, plus it has to be friendly, not antagonistic. And it can be a general question, a direct question to a particular trainee who you feel is not really absorbing, or it can be a rhetorical question, or it can be a leading question, just to convey your idea and make them understand. But why do you question? You've got to assess the understanding, whether they're keeping attention, or review what you have actually told them earlier. You can use group discussions and questions to involve trainees, to recapitulate, to elicit opinions and feedback, and check if communication is received intact or if there is a misunderstanding. And most important, please summarize after every small section you are talking about. That helps people to recapitulate and remember things better. Assignments also will help the trainees to go back home and then think about what has been said. In skill training, you've got to demonstrate yourself, many of the things. And you have to explain each step. And then you've got to have the trainee to imitate those steps before you. If it's a new machinery you're trying to make popular, or then you leave him to independently practice at his own pace. And most important, you have to avoid distracting sounds, interferences in the training environment. You've got to avoid ridiculing, interrogating, or being impolite to your questioner. I have seen it in a lot of very senior, conferences where very senior people are attending. The questioner is ridiculed, or he's talked to in an impolite way. This should never be done. Becoming unfriendly or too defensive against criticism is one of the problems I've seen in many conferences and so on. You've got to be diplomatic in handling even tough questions. And in conventional training, you have lectures, you have discussions, you have demonstrations, you have exercises, sometimes games, case studies, assignments are given, as I said, group tasks are given, role play is sometimes used, particularly for understanding emotional equations and so on, which are being conveyed. And in hands-on training, which is usually used for skills to be imparted, you have, say, for dealing with new machinery and so on, you have on-the-job training, you have apprenticeship training, you have mock drills sometimes. For safety also you have mock drills. And even job rotation can be a form of training to help people understand what's going on in the other section where you are not really keeping in touch with what's happening because you are just focused on your own job. One of the things Chandra asked me to do, because I am now in the Innovation Council, is to talk something about innovation in training. I'm not very much aware of a lot of innovations, but I put together a few of the stuff, particularly relating to IT-related training or use of IT in training, I would say, like e-learning, m-learning, mobile learning, for which I think a lot more of content development is needed. Online training is available, online gaming is available, mobile training is available, and you have offline methods also like e-books which are used to impart training nowadays. And the best is to use a hybrid method of face-to-face training plus a certain amount of innovative training based on IT, which I had mentioned. And the advantages, of course, are obvious: easy accessibility, real-time virtual support is there. Organizational intranet you can access using your mobile phone 24/7. So if you have a doubt about some regulation or you want to check the manual, you can do that immediately. The flexibility of time and place, you can actually study at the workplace, home, or elsewhere, in a restaurant maybe. And cost effectiveness is very high because you avoid travel particularly and work absence of the trainees. And ease of updating of instructions is very much there, because you don't have to reprint material. Digital materials are not reprinted. They are updated quickly at a minimal cost. And communication is global in the sense that the trainer and trainee can be anywhere in the world. And better problem solving and innovation comes because of people interacting from different geographies, from different cultural backgrounds, and so on. And this is a preferred method for young people, I notice. But unfortunately, some of the drawbacks are that you need very high bandwidth, especially for videos. And in rural areas, you find that you don't have this kind of infrastructure. And mobile learning or M-learning, there are a lot of apps available, especially for access to manuals and regulations and so on. I've seen advocates checking on their mobile, recent amendments to acts and so on, because mobile has become a small PC now, or probably more powerful than a PC was 10 years ago. So you have lesser cost, infrastructure is generally less, and easy access. Text messaging is also possible using mobiles. You have GPS, which allows location-specific content to come. Many of you travel with the GPS, you know that you can find out where is the nearest restaurant and so on. This can be used for training also. You got to use innovative methods by which you can adapt this kind of facility which is available technologically for the training arena. Tablets are available because many of the mobiles, they don't have sufficient battery life, and or the screen is too small and so on. And tablets always have higher computing power, and a lot of supporting applications are there. The bigger screen for graphics or gamification, software is coming day by day. Battery has a longer life. You have a regular keyboard you can type on. So that is being used very much for training. Videos, online videos particularly, because visual learning is far more effective, I find. You can just have a video of a very good master trainer giving a face-to-face training, just record it and put it. You can put it online or put it on a DVD, or you can pass it through the internet to anybody who wants to watch. And you can put it on YouTube or Vimeo if you want to. And language training has become very, very simple, because even now on the internet, a lot of facilities are available where you can actually improve your pronunciation of a foreign language and so on, which was very difficult earlier because the people who taught you the language wouldn't know the real pronunciation anyway. You have webinars and video conferencing, which all of us participate in, and in which several participants have to log on to a website and view a live presentation and communicate. Of course, the disadvantage is that everybody has to do it at the same time. But that's small, if you're committed enough, you can always find the time for that. There are a lot of training e-books available as PDF docs or on PCs or e-readers like Kindle or as Kobo tablets and so on. And social media like Facebook, which has some 1.5 billion users, Twitter's has got, I think, 0.8 billion users. You have YouTube, some 800 million users, Google+. All this can be leveraged for training, just as they are used for advertising and marketing. This is an opportunity for people who want to start training enterprises and those who want to impart training, because a lot of content has to be adapted for this media. And building relationships is also a very important thing in teamwork. And this is something, this is not always possible within the classroom type of situation. You can have the WhatsApp group as a group which will bring all the people together. Earlier, when I was heading the office of the Chief Minister for about 2 to 3 years, we had about 155 staff. It's very difficult for us to interact with each other because we had to see each one of us at least 1,000 people a day. And in those circumstances, you couldn't interact. But the moment you had a WhatsApp group, every day in the morning, you start talking a little bit of business, a little bit of nonsense maybe, but still that brings together a group, and the effectiveness of the group was very much improved. And there are a lot of virtual instructors available. New web conferencing technologies are being invented daily, and virtual assistants are there. They can be live or they can be automated. You may be talking to a robo, but it's just as effective. And use of 3D technology in training is another field, and it can be used both for technical subjects and for soft skills. I've seen cartoons made with this type of 3D technology which conveys soft skills, and comes up with situations. And these are very low cost in production because you don't have to have an actor actually doing it. And blended learning is the type of blend you have in the traditional face-to-face kind of training or hands-on training, plus using all these innovative methods which I've been talking about. So this hybrid learning or mixed mode learning, as you can call it, can be used to combine online digital media and classroom methods in a judicious manner, increasing the training efficacy, and gets the best of both online learning and in-person instruction regarding content and delivery. And trainees have some control over time, place, or a pace at which they want to learn. This mix of technology and tradition is pedagogically proven as more successful, offering scale also, because one instructor can reach thousands of people and reduces training expenses and replaces pricey textbooks. I remember when I was a student, it was very difficult to buy textbooks because most of the textbooks were American and we couldn't afford them. Now, a lot of this information is available online at a very cheap cost, and the electronic devices to read them are also much cheaper. So use them for instruction, use them for training. And another important thing is, if you want to keep a tab on the person you are training, maybe in the companies, some of the companies where I've been working, we've used that. You can look at the login and work times of each of the people who have training to find out if somebody is actually not spending enough time online to learn the stuff you've asked him to do. So you can blend the new technology with the old in any kind of a form you want. You can be, a little bit of optional online coursework, or it can be scheduled as a mix of independent online study plus classroom time and so on. And the entire training course also can be online with some teacher check-ins possible. So before I conclude, let me talk about one important point, which is planning of the training program. This is what I find lacking in my governmental experience of over 3 decades. What are the kind of training goals you're trying to achieve? This has to be very clear. New skills, techniques, better workplace behavior, safety, etc. I remember when I was the Home Secretary of Kerala, we were trying to change the attitude of the police. Now, this is something which is crucial as far as the perception of the government is concerned from the common man, because most of the people are afraid, especially women are afraid to go to a police station. And it's very difficult to change attitudes, but we did want to try. And somebody came up with training programs. I was asking the question before finalizing them, what is your objective? And even these consultants who came for training could not explain very clearly, because you got to have measurable objectives and find out after the training whether they've been achieved. And this is very important. Otherwise, the money you're spending may be a waste. And this may be objected to by the finance departments of various organizations. And so you got to have a training budget with understanding the infrastructure, resources, training aids, the HR people who are going to help you in that, and have your trainers and you have to train your trainers in public communication, give them materials they need, use interactive methods and all. Many of the bad organizations where training programs are not used seem to have a short-term focus. They have a resistance to change, lack of value for learning, poor strategic planning and leadership, many of which are there in the public sector enterprises, which I've been also heading and I've been seeing around me. But they do exist in the private sector too. And the crucial part of the finding out the effectiveness of training and improving it is evaluation. The evaluation process must be done by another audit, on-the-job performance observation and evaluation and so on. So to conclude, let me summarize. You have to plan well. You have to train trainers to be effective in public communication and give them the required infrastructure materials, use interactive methods more, small group discussions, case studies, role play, quizzes, questioning each other and some question cards, and blend in-person training with online training, which is available now, and use computer-based training, multimedia, virtual reality, webinars, web-based training, video conferencing, online distance learning, e-learning. All these are available to you. It's for you to creatively use all these to make your training more effective. And in hands-on training, especially for skills, have more apprenticeships, mock drills, job rotation, and so on. And allow the trainees to learn at their own pace. And most important of all, show great enthusiasm and deep commitment as a trainer. It is difficult to be not inspired by a sincere or vivacious trainer. So, thank you for your attention. Let me thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity, and I hope that this National Trainers Summit has been of interest and of use to you, and you'll be able to improve on the job when you go back to your training, or but that means if you are already in the training field, and those few people who are going to enter the training field, this is a great opportunity, especially using the new technologies which I have mentioned. There are a lot of requirements for developing content, for imparting the training, and make full use of it, and help our nation grow. Thank you very much.